Hello everyone, I'm just popping in here real quick because I wanted to talk about two things that I mentioned on my YouTube channel I was going to share with you all about. Today I'm going to be talking about my final thoughts on Christopher Yuan's book, Out of a Far Country. And then I'm also going to be sharing my thoughts on this book, Becoming Free Indeed by Duggar. And towards the end, I'm going to be sharing a few personal topics about what's going on and why you haven't seen me as often on my channel lately, and why you might not see me too often in the future, in the upcoming future, the next, I don't know, month or so. So first, if you're new here, my name is Susan Morales, and my YouTube channel focuses on exploring and learning what it means to follow Jesus in an everyday kind of way. And I go over topics related to the Christian worldview. So we talk about how this Christian worldview impacts us on a, everyday kind of a way, like how does that impact us when it comes to motherhood, fatherhood, how does it impact us as far as like what we should believe about topics such as sexuality, which is one of the topics we're talking about today, and so forth. Anything you can think of. I'm interested in learning, what does the Bible have to say about how we are to think, what is reality, what is truth about any given topic, and how do we go about talking about these things, reaching out to other people and doing it in a way that the Bible teaches us to do it. And so yeah, it's a pretty open topic YouTube channel, and my goal is really to serve as an online mentor to you if you are interested in just learning and growing your scope on Christianity. And I really want to introduce you to different topics out there, while at the same time sharing with you and being really open about where I personally land. And I want to encourage us as Christians to be having these strong convictions about where we land on these, especially like secondary topics that we're allowed to disagree on and still be considered Christians, But I also want to uphold and encourage you to on this channel to realize that we can learn from the people that we disagree with on a certain topic, and at the same time we can be really open and honest about about our disagreements. So I encourage you to always share with me your thoughts, your disagreements, in the comment section. I also encourage you to be really respectful in the comment section, realizing that God is working in each of us, and we are coming across people in their journey with God. And sometimes some of us are in the beginning of our journey, and we need to be mindful that we need to be gracious with these people, because God is leading them. God is going to lead them into His truth, and we want to be patient with them just like God is patient with us. So that said, I'm going to start with this topic, which, if you haven't been seeing I think I made 2 other videos on this topic. I called it my June book club, and it's like about to be August and I'm still talking about it. That's just life, right? But I chose June because it's the month that our country here in the US has chosen to designate as Pride Month. And so I wanted to dive into this topic and really try to learn about it and how, you know, we are to respond as Christians. So this book was written by a son and a mother, Christopher and Angela Yuan. I interviewed Christopher, and I'll link that video in the description or the show notes, however you prefer to call that section. And but what was interesting was that I interviewed him before I finished reading his book, and the things that I'm learning, especially now that I finished reading the whole book, it's just like I'm so happy about what happened in these people's lives. I'm very encouraged by it. This is a book that I probably would not have like been open about reading in, like, I don't know, a year ago or 2 years ago. I would have stayed away from reading the actual like story of someone who identified as a gay man. And here, you know, he's writing from the perspective of a now Christian who has decided to abandon that lifestyle, that identity, and to pursue Christ and what he has found the Bible teaches on the topic. And I'll be reading his other book that actually dives in more into like what he discovered in scripture and all of that. And I will be sharing my thoughts on that book when I get to reading it. But I left off hoping, I think my last video left off hoping and anticipating that the book was going to get better. And it does, but it actually goes over a lot of difficult things, and one of them was his health challenges. And I was concerned because I learned that Christopher has a diagnosis, and I'm just kind of hoping that he's doing well. He seems to be, you know, really busy traveling and speaking alongside of his mother. But in the book he does talk about how, you know, he's a little weak, you know, because of his diagnosis. And so I just felt kind of concerned when I finished reading this, and I hope he's in good health. And yeah, so another thing that came out of this was I feel very encouraged to be more not passive, but I'm not sure it's aggressive. What's the word I'm looking for? More like purposeful about praying, and that sometimes it's not just going to be one prayer, but it's going to be a process of praying, and God is going to use you and other people that come alongside of you to pray for the same thing, for the same person, like this mother did. And God is going to use that and bring people to him. Like this book says that a gay son's journey to God, a broken mother's search for hope, and where is it? God calls all who are lost to come home to him. Well, the line, I'm not sure I'm finding it here, but pretty much that God brings these prodigal people, like the parable about how there was this young son that decided he wasn't going to wait for his father to, pass away and then receive his inheritance. Instead, he went off into the world, wasted that money, that inheritance, and he ended up coming back to his senses when everyone abandoned him, when he was in a very low place in his life. Came back and was greeted by a loving father that celebrated his return. And in the same way, you can see that God did that in Christopher's life, in Angela's life as well, but in particular in Christopher's life. He went to jail, and he talks about his time in jail and the transformation in his life while he was there. He says that if not for jail, he probably would have been dead. His lifestyle it made me aware of how lost people are when they are in these deep addictions, and it's even God's grace for some people to end up going to jail, and God can help them to let go of those addictions there if people are open to hearing about him. And so you hear about the people that impacted him in his life and God used, and even one of them along the way told Christopher that he believes God is going to use him, like as a preacher. And it's interesting because we see that now that is what he is doing. And there's this really sweet moment towards the end. I can't even tell you all the amazing parts that I read. I recommend my listeners read this book. It really is. It's not a boring book at all. Like, it's just very real. And but there's this ending, and I won't give every detail, but it has to do with a song. And you see the intentionality of the parents about how they wanted when their son returned, got out of jail through like situations, and great, like, God's favor was on him, and he was able to get out of jail earlier, and because of the transformation God did in him, and how God used him in jail and all of these things. But there's this ending that really shows how God used so many people to pray for Christopher, and he's home, and there's no shame, and his parents are like that prodigal father. They're welcoming him home. He has this family that loves him. And the thing that, aside from the prayer inspiration, the thing that impacted me the most, especially towards the ending of this book, was how much Christopher's personal manner towards his mom in particular, but yeah, like the way that he talked, and just the way that he wanted to talk to his mom, to his parents, the way, when he was in the middle of the deep part of his addiction, and like throughout the whole book, it just seemed like he didn't really want anything to do with them. And now that he was a believer, it's amazing how that family dynamic changed so drastically. There was one part, like, I forget what part it was, but I was like, oh yeah, like, before he went to jail, like, I was like, oh no, like, Christopher, how could you do that to your parents? How could you do that to your mother? And to me, if I'm being very honest, I was like, oh no, like, at that point, I probably would have been like, that's it, like, that you have chosen to just be on your own in life, because that's like so disrespectful, and your actions. It was the part of the book where he he was given this Bible. You have this dad who was a new believer, because it was first a mom that came to Christ. And you hear it in her story, like her faith and all the things she did, like symbolism and her prayer closet and all these things. It's so beautiful. Her fasting. But her husband was a new believer, and I think it was like his Bible, his only Bible, I think. And in a moment where Christopher was kicking his parents out, like they had come and they wanted to visit him, and he was just so lost in his addiction that he kicked them out, and he's so rude to them. And the father's reaction was to leave him his Bible. And the thing that he does is throws it in the trash can and slams the door, like, as they left. I just thought, oh no, like they don't have a ride to the airport. It was just so bad. And I pretty much turned my back on Christopher in that moment. Even though I knew, wait a minute, like he's a Christian now and it's gonna get better. But I just thought, wow. And for these parents, believing in God, to, obviously it's easy for me to say that not as his parent. It's a different story if it's like your own child, of course. Most parents never give up on their kids, and for them to continue to love and pray and be open to going and visiting their son in jail. And it's just amazing. It's amazing, because as we all know, when things are broken in family relationships, those things can be a lifelong thing. And it's amazing how quickly we see a transformation in Christopher, and it just goes to show how bad, people think it's just an addiction. But no, it's eating up not just your own life, but it's eating up your relationships with your families and all of that. So it's a book I highly recommend. Read it for yourself. Come back to this video when you finish reading it. Share your thoughts about it. I would love to hear that. I really do. I feel like I grow with you guys as you share your insights, and I evaluate what you say, because sometimes, obviously there's some things in the comment sections that are just not true, but there are some good things in the comment section sometimes that I feel like we're doing what God intended. We're growing together as followers of Christ as we share what we are learning. And so here's the book that I had put on pause because of June book club. I read this and it was so interesting to read about it as a former Duggar fan. I'm gonna say fanatic. So I've heard other people interview them, Ginger and her husband Jeremy, and I'm just going to go for a more honest take on this book. At first I was thinking, okay, I'm taking all these notes, this is what I'm going to talk about, but I'm just going to share with you, I'm gonna keep it real. So when I was a new mom, I came across the show of the Duggars, and I thought it was great because what I was seeing was a lot of non-Christian shows on TV. And I thought, wow, look, here's a family that does things differently than what the world does. In the world, we see a lot of shows that are promoting dating casually, going into sexual relationships, in those relationships, and not waiting for marriage. And here was a family that was teaching their children to dress modestly. They wore skirts. They were taught, what is that? To not buy new things, to buy used and save the difference. And I thought that's really cool. That's very different. That's teaching them that their identity isn't about the clothes you wear. You know, it's, you can be different. And I was encouraged by that. I thought, okay, you know what, maybe I can try that out in my own life, you know. And the thing that I mostly liked in that show was how in their relationships, how quickly they entered marriage, because it's a sad thing in my opinion, although there are exceptions of course, when a couple that loves each other have to wait, or not have to wait, but they choose to wait years. And I think that strains the relationship, and so I liked seeing how these men respected these young women and were committed to them and chose to marry them right away. I liked seeing, like, for the first time I think, seeing courtship, because I didn't grow up necessarily like in that type of environment, like purity culture and things like that. I did have a few, you know, classes here and there in the different churches I grew up in, hearing things similar to that. Not the shame aspect of it, but you know how purity culture, like a lot of people have come out saying that it shames women and gives them unrealistic expectations and all that. One moment. Yeah? I thought I heard my child. Okay. I have to wrap this up real quick. So it was interesting for me to hear from Ginger. It was not meant to be a tell-all. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay? Okay. Okay, 5 minutes. She was very clear. It's not a tell-all. It's not to bash on her family. At the same time, she does feel that her participation in her family show, the things that they taught, they had written another book that taught a lot of the Gothard teachings that is actually what their parents were teaching them. And so she felt a responsibility, and I'm sure she felt that she had a great opportunity to come out, get this message out there. Hey, don't follow these teachings by this man Gothard, because they're actually not biblical, and they're more like cultish in their nature and the way that they're taught, and some things have come out about this person that makes him a hypocrite to his own teachings. So my takeaways are, I got to hear her journey going from like thinking this man is a gift from God and all other Christians are wrong, to questioning the teachings through her fiance Jeremy, and landing in a church that she believes is very, very biblically sound. I believe her church is the church that Pastor John MacArthur leads pastors. And so obviously, as someone that does not hold to like the Reformed teaching Calvinism, which they've been open about in an interview I heard that is what they hold to. obviously I find parts in this book where I would say that that's not what the Bible teaches, but I can appreciate that that's where they land, and I'm not making a big deal about it. What else? My other, I guess, criticism would be that she wrote this book with the help of another, with a man, I think her from her church, or a friend who she says knows more about the Bible. She says she needed help to be able to like explain things better, because she tries to offer the teachings from Gothard that are wrong and what the Bible actually teaches. So the only thing I would have preferred is to just hear it, the whole book, from her. Maybe she could get some help outside of the book process. That way I could feel like I know what Ginger is writing, and not, is this the part where that other person, is this the part that he wrote that? And also in the back of my mind, I'm wondering if, since I believe that church also holds to complementarianism, the view that women are not supposed to be like teaching other men, and every complementarian has their own views on to what extent a woman can teach things about the Bible. So I can't say for sure I know that this is the reason. It's just kind of something in the back of my mind. I wonder if it was if it was related to her church, that she needed like her church's blessing, or maybe they're just like wanting to be faithful to their church's teachings on it, and maybe that's why they included this other person. So that's all speculation. That's just something that was in the back of my mind. So I will say that there were certain things that I think I've seen a transformation in her life, just seeing her vlogs that she still posts online on YouTube. And sometimes I think, even if these teachings were wrong, I think there was still some truth, like nuggets in there, when it came to just some things that I really appreciated and felt inspired. Like, just for example, that whole being an hold on, I don't know if the radio's gonna turn on. Okay. Being an example to other women about just being aware about how you dress. I think that there is some validity to that, and I would be cautious to not just throw out certain things just because Gothard taught certain things. I would make sure that I don't want to throw away the baby with the bathwater, just because Gothard taught something, and like maybe it starts with a truth, but then he added to it, and so like, let's not just throw away everything that Gothard taught. Let's hold on to things that are valuable and important. What else? I appreciated when she spoke about how she now feels that she can be more real with her spouse, and that she doesn't have to be this wife that is always just smiling and in a way like performing, I appreciated that part of the book. My only concern for Ginger personally is that she does talk about how ever since she was a little girl, she was like behind a camera, and she felt like her life was that one movie where I forget what it's called. It's a character that is living inside a reality TV show, and he doesn't know it until the end. And she felt that that was her life pretty much. And so for me, I just wonder if it would be better for her to step away from, you know, that being that celebrity figure lifestyle, and just pursue having a quiet life instead. Because I think a lot of people are like, well, we have been given this huge platform, this opportunity by God, and I just wonder if that's actually just, you're just continuing to live a lifestyle that was kind of chosen for you in the beginning, you know. Because especially, like, it's just something I've noticed, that everything is all good until people turn you into a celebrity, and it's all good, but then those same people will end up turning you into, you know, an infamous person, as we've seen in their brother's Josh, in his personal life. So you're famous for the right reasons, but then just be aware that you will ultimately be famous for the wrong reasons as well. So I would just probably be cautious about that. And also, I wanted to just talk real quick about how her sister came out in a documentary on was it Prime? I think she came out on a documentary. It's called Shiny People, I think. It's about the Duggar family show, and there was a lot in that documentary. My takeaway was the same thing, like her sister Jill, like, why are you doing something that literally causes you to cry as you're speaking? And I get that you want to tell your own story, but it just seems to be contradictory for someone that is complaining about how something damaged them, for them to continue to be in the spotlight and, you know, continue that. She's coming out with her own book. I'll probably want to read it just to see why she felt the need to, like, put that out there. One thing that most impacted me about what Jill said in that documentary was that she wasn't getting paid, and that it seems like the father was manipulating so that she would continue to be on the show. And so all of that, it just seems like it would be better for this family to just stop being in the spotlight, pursue serving God outside of a large platform, because that's not required. I mean, unless God personally, like, that's where God's leading them. But if we're just confusing a large platform for that's more valuable than just you, like, discipling your children in the privacy of your own home, leaving behind that vlog because that's how we're making money, and that opens up opportunities. Even if it is for God, it's like we're falling for the same lie that she fell into, because her own parents thought, okay, we're going to use this as, you know, a way to tell people about God and all of that. I personally just, after all these years of YouTube, you know, figuring it out, and now I just kind of feel bad for when children are in vlogs, because we're gonna see the negative effects of that when these kids grow up, you know, and they're the ones that are gonna probably pop on to talk about those negative things, and so I think we should be very careful about keeping our private life private, you know. it's a virtue or a value that we've lost, I think. Like, it's sad that this family it's like falling apart pretty much. Their fame, for sure, all the personal things that came out and that continues to hurt them, in particular Jill. She wishes that the things that happened with her brother and the victims, she wishes that was never put out there. And so it's a shame that that's still going, and that they feel that they have to put, you know, their side of the story out there and all of that. And those are my personal thoughts on it. I just wanted to share some personal things real quick. That I received some sad news this weekend about a close extended family member. It's a very sad diagnosis that I'm still waiting to hear more details and what the situation is. You know, I'm very hopeful that God's going to bring healing, but it's one of those things that my heart is very heavy, and at times I'm fine, and then at other times I just feel like such a heaviness in my heart. I feel very sad, and so if you would pray for me and my family, and for that family member to be healed, and for God to give the doctors wisdom on how to treat that family member, that the family member will not have any more reoccurring things to return, I would really appreciate it. And I'm leaving it to the end because I know that if you're still listening, then like you care about what I say, and you probably care about this channel, you care about what's going on in my life, and I appreciate that. And also, I'm doing something new. It's very time consuming. I'm going to coach my daughter's soccer team. They needed a volunteer, you know, and so I'm stepping up to do something that it's new for me, and I'm really excited. I'm like using my teaching skills here, like trying to learn as much as I can about the sport and all the rules that go with that. There's a lot of training and deadlines. So yeah, pray for me also so that I can be a good leader to the girls that I will be coaching. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video to the end. Share your thoughts with me in the comment section. I want to hear from you. And yeah, if you don't hear from me for a little while, it's because life is really busy and I'm trying to prioritize the most important things. And I'll be praying for you guys as well. So love you guys. Bye.
I can see your love now. I can see how you gave your son for me. I can see your love now. I can see how you died for my place. I can see your love now. You're coming back for me someday.